delivering the news dealers count on for 10 years. Subscribe today and join thousands of other automotive professionals. CBT News, 10 years strong. You're watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
Technology continues to expand within dealerships, saving customers time and money. Today, we're happy to have Mr. Mark Queen, who's the founder of Skaivision, and Bill Wittenmyer. I know that you know this gentleman. He's been on CBT many times with me. Today, he's playing strategy for Skaivision as well. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Great to be here. Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Yeah, thank you so much. We haven't had you as much on CBT News, but I'm sure something tells me we're going to be seeing more of you, Mark. But, we go back, Bill, a long way.
Time.
So it's good to
Almost
see you.
to the 10-year beginning,
That's
by the way.
exactly
Congratulations
right.
on the decade.
Thank you. We were going back to the vault of the old videos, and you were there, right in the beginning in our first studio, in North Atlanta here. And so thank you so much for all the content over the years.
Glad to.
But so I'm anxious to talk to you guys about Skaivision, because you're from what I know of it and just the time that we've spent together and listening to it. If I were a dealer, I might be your first client, okay? Only because this is an area, as the viewers will listen to in a minute, that this is an area that every dealer is going to go, oh, now we're talking about something, okay? This is exactly what I've needed as a dealer principal, general manager, a fixed ops director, what have you. So for the dealers that are listening, let's start with you, Mark. Tell us about Skaivision, because I know that this is going to be something that's going to be of great interest to our viewers.
We simply plug a box into the dealership's video server, and it's an application that brings their cameras to life, and that it translates what's going on video and gives them critical alerts on things that they think are important.
Using AI?
Yes, computer vision is a subset of AI. It's very new, brand new. This will be the first application in automotive retail for it. But not new to larger Fortune 100 companies.
As well as so many other big retailers that are relying more and more on AI to help in retail.
Yeah, pretty much any household name retailer has already got 5-10 years with this. You know, casinos longer than that. In fact, the OEMs in automotive very heavily invested in computer vision. If you look at all the patents out there for cameras on cars, if you look at the technologies that they're using to build vehicles and the manufacturing process, and with inspecting vehicles.
Sure.
But there's really been nothing for the retail experience with computer vision until now.
So give our viewers an example. What will this help the dealer get their hands around?
Well, really, three big things. First is the customer experience. I think it's pretty well known. Every dealer group that we're collaborating with on this has cited that, hey, their number one complaint of the customer about our business is time.
No question
time
about
is money,
it. Whether
time
you're buying
on
the
site.
car or servicing the car, it is just perceived that it's going to take you
Or trying to do either of the two. I mean, in some
that's
cases,
true.
it's
That's true.
even just trying
Sometimes
to.
you're just standing
Oil change
around.
or delivery, it's the time on site. And really, there's no way to manage that time on site or reduce that if you can't measure it. And there's no dealership today that can have a quick look at, hey, we changed 50 oil changes yesterday. These were in the 45-minute range, these an hour and a half, and why. These deliveries were an hour and a half versus these at 4 hours, and why.
Well, even at valid. Even at valid measurement.
That's
right.
right.
And the problem, and Mark and I have gone back, well over 2 decades, 20 years together. And some of the things that we went to solve with the CRM, we actually created more problem because we added the element of the human interaction.
That's right.
Or lack thereof, depending on.
Yeah.
And then so what the nice thing about Sky is it reduces any of that objectiveness, it reduces any of that requirement, and it's giving you pure data. Did this job get done, right? Did the actual time for F&I. Did we actually measure that? Are we waiting? Can I get an alert sent to the GM or the GSM that says, hey, this customer's been waiting for 5 or 10 minutes, right? And I think one of the great things Mark has found with our partners that we've gone into already, not only the dealer investors, but our pilot stores, is we're discovering new things every day that actually generate actionable dollar revenue items. Even walk around in the service lane. Did the actual multi-point inspection get done? And these are real-time alerts that require no human intervention, right? It comes to you directly on the phone, thumbnail video, what do you want to do with it? I think that's been a really big thing.
So if in the event I'm a dealer or a general manager or a fixed ops director, and that individual that comes in nobody's paying any attention to that person, it's going to alert that me or somebody in service to say, hey, you got to get out here.
The team will receive that, and you hit on probably the biggest CSI detractor when you look at when they get dinged. It starts with the greeting.
Yeah.
Group to group, we've seen that is the number one thing they want to focus on first is someone greeted within 5 minutes in service. If not, the whole team needs an alert on that. Big ones if their vehicle delays in the service process. Is the customer delayed or in the waiting room too long? You need to know immediately and go address that and touch them. A whole plethora of things around the license plate read and what we can do with that.
Okay.
But the critical alerts are a big thing in terms of save the day opportunities, and the biggest we're finding is the actual frontline employees themselves in the dealerships, the advisors, sales reps. They know better than anyone what they need the extra sets of eyes in the back of their head on, and they're pointing us to the real money on the floor moments in terms of what the alerts need to be.
Sure.
But aside from just that alert, each 3 or 4 of those today where we can take advantage of an opportunity or prevent something before it has financial repercussions, the pattern recognition is more mid to long term, of knowing that at certain times this is taking longer, at certain stores you've got certain gaps in your process maps, and that's what Bill said.
And relies on that human interaction, which we know can be construed in different ways, right? And one of the we had one of our key investors who also part of our very large group, automotive-wise, made a great statement that really kind of woke both Mark and I up in the team, which was, how many times have we punished somebody for video versus how many times have we promoted them for that, right? And it's like, that was where the adoption really came, is we're finding that the stores, particularly in service, they want the adoption. They want it because they're saying, hey, we can see benefit from this. I think another great example that Mark ran into, they had a valet greeter, and they thought, if we put a valet in there, park the cars, the customer will get greeted a lot quicker. In essence, what ended up happening is once we put Sky in, we could notice that it actually slowed the system down. So their process is slowed down by having the valet. They were able to eliminate the expense, but even more importantly, solve the problem using Sky technology and being able to see those alerts real time.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And I've never had, whenever I was running dealerships, I never had a service manager or a service advisor walk in and go, hey boss, guess what? We let 5 people wait longer than 15 minutes today. Just want to let you know that. Never got that, okay?
Yeah.
And it's never gonna happen. You know, they might come in and say, hey, we have a little problem we got to work out. If you brought it up to say, hey, I'm getting some information or emails here from good customers that said, man, it takes a long time to do business with you guys in your service department, right? And then you're thinking, well, there's 100 customers behind every one email you get that feels the same way. You just don't know about it.
That's true. In reality, almost every service manager spends a good bit of time looking at their VMS, their video feeds, their what's going on in the drive. The problem is they may spot one issue, text or call that advisor, yet they didn't see that was done properly the 10 before.
That's right.
Unlike the other. So there's not an objectivity to it.
I think the other key thing is, you really talk about affordability. There's a couple of other pieces that are into this. Number one, the technology is outstanding and it's new to the automotive space, right? So this is something that's brand new and not rehashed. And I think, Mark, you'll probably talk a little bit about the silhouette technology versus the facial recognition, which is really key. But before we go there, we're talking about this working on basically every existing camera system that's already out there. There's not a need to have to go buy another solution to add this solution in. In most cases, all you're talking about is adding in our intelligent box and being able to plug and play right from there. Maybe some cameras that may be a little bit old and you want to go get a 4K upgrade camera, super inexpensive.
$120.
But the reality is you're not having to put in a new system. This is a plug and play with existing systems within the majority of the dealerships in the U.S.
Right. And if the service department knows about these cameras, they know about this technology, aren't they just going to do a better job? I mean, it would seem to me that if they've got that, if they know that the GM or the dealer or the fixed ops director has this technology, man, I'm going to be all over those customers when they come in, right?
Yeah.
So that I'm not called in.
One dealer group did point out, they call it the pep in the step.
That's a good way to put it,
part of the equation, but really it's the Hawthorne effect is a scientifically proven, for 90 years, that if you perceive that your peers or your boss has any visibility into what you're doing,
right.
you do that task 10% better.
That's right.
And that's
right.
proven out. And that's a small piece of it. But I think the biggest thing is that right now, it's a dead operational expense for dealerships. They only look at the camera if something goes wrong.
No question about it.
They use it reactively, and
right.
then it's clunky to go back and see what, when, where did something go wrong. And now we want to turn that proactively into something positive.
How did this formulate? I mean, are you
had
sitting around looking at cameras going, hey, wait a minute, if we could just get these people taken care of.
It was actually a seed that was planted 5 or 6 years ago. I went to meet with a large enterprise group, and we had tied a piece of the CRM, a metric, to the pay plans.
Sure.
And the metric went from 30% to 100 overnight, but net profit did nothing. So
imagine that.
A comment was made by the CEO of the group, and I walked in that said, "Hey, Eli, if until you've got an eye in the sky like Vegas, all this is just pure conjecture.
Right.
It's just whack-a-mole with they're going to say that because that's the crazy thing is we're doing two things to most automotive service and delivery deals. We're asking the employee to input a ton of data on how the process was done.
That's right.
And we're asking them to tell whether they did their job or not.
Yeah.
So the data accuracy plus the time that it's taking is something that the camera can do objectively.
Really, we just multiplied the amount of failure opportunities there were going to be, whether the data was going to be inaccurate or they certainly weren't going to your point earlier, point the finger back at themselves.
Right.
And then now taking that into those actionable alerts where we started thinking, gosh, all the different things that we were attempting to do with the CRM, what could we really do with this? And then it started to come across, we could actually see the cars come on the lot. And now we started thinking, okay, now you're talking about license plate recognition. Okay, how could we take that? And then it became license plate recognition in the service lane and now offering up a true dollar figure on that vehicle as a trade-in. And so now, again, eliminating a lot of the human error or opportunities for failure were those type of things. Hey, how long were they actually out on that drive when they went to go to the test drive?
Right.
We can see them leave the lot, we can see them come back. These are actionable items. And so I think that's really what started to breed, okay, how can we turn these into dollars? And then of course our investment partners, as we continue to roll out pilot stores, have always been really traditionally our greatest asset of mind in terms of ideas. So
Absolutely. And they really have gotten behind Bill and I are big believers that privacy is a given right. And it's a huge piece of why we've when you look at our IP strategy and you look at the patents, some of the toughest stuff that we're doing is using the anonymous silhouette recognition instead of facial recognition. So there are no names in our system, no PII.
Okay.
We're able to track a unique ID that's anonymized throughout different sections of the dealership, that's brand new.
That's
that
amazing.
Type of multi-modal fusion. So.
And there's opt-in. I mean, dealers, if they want to choose or groups want to choose, hey, we want to opt in the facial recognition because this adds in additional bonus or feature sets. And we want to provide positive, as Mark said, even to the consumers. Hey, maybe this adds in, they get more free car washes or whatever.
Why would a dealer not want to opt in on that?
Yeah, well, the customer, there are groups that do believe that customers will absolutely opt in to a faster experience. It saves them time and money.
That's exactly right.
And heck, we prove that. We'll prove it today with an airline.
That's right.
Look at the facial recognition line here at Atlanta Hartsfield.
We did it at the hotel yesterday and this morning. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it was empty a year ago, and now it's filling up like the TSA Pre because people see that, hey, the camera's not going anywhere. In fact, there'll be more of them in the future. There'll be cameras on vehicles, at a high rate. And that's been the whole thing of the compliance tool. When you look at where legislation's headed, like CRPA takes effect this month in California, technically, you can't use a camera even without AI, just a traditional camera, without really visible signage that meets certain standards, letting customers know that their image is being recorded on video.
Right.
So as that legislation comes through and progresses, from west to east, we're already prepared for every jurisdiction to let every group know in exactly which jurisdictions they have certain compliance standards they need to meet.
Sure.
And we're able to deliver, if something does happen, like a customer fall, we're able to deliver that data anonymously to HR.
Right.
To then put a name to it the correct way.
Yeah.
And the use of this as a compliance tool is definitely going to boost adoption, in our opinion.
And it was a surprise for us, right? We came into this thinking back into how do we generate revenue? How do we generate revenue? How do we get the dealers to generate more revenue? And it's amazing all these different other things that we're stepping on and finding as we go through and as we continue to roll out of our pilot programs.
Wow. So for the dealers that are listening that say, I like what I hear, this makes complete sense, how come we haven't had it already? What is, if somebody's interested, obviously they reach out to you, they say, I love the way this sounds. What's the onboarding? Are you taking on new dealers
Absolutely,
now?
yes.
Okay.
In fact, in ADA, if you come to our booth, you'll be able to see the system working with the cameras inside the booth as you come in, and you'll see it working in live dealerships as well to get more of a use case.
Right.
Scenario, but typically what we'll do is we go to the dealership, we look at where, we can even remotely usually look at where their cameras are and if they have the service lane covered or not, the customer waiting area, wherever, and we will typically go back and take 30 days of data and do a look back and see where the opportunities are going to be.
Sure.
And then we simply send the box out, plug it in, and the app is one of the biggest things we got from the groups is we don't want any work. We want, if you're going to bring something in, we'd like it to be completely game-changing and disruptive. And this was part of the message I got when I spoke to a lot of groups on, hey, what do you need? What's next? What do you want us to do?
Well, and, we talked, at just endless about the need for people to use the CRM. And that was a huge challenge.
Constant accountability.
This is in action 24/7. I mean,
and there's no data input by the individuals, and that's one of the biggest things we got was, hey, we're over-teched. We have tech fatigue. We would like something that our employees that doesn't compete for focus time on tapping, scrolling, and typing. Bring in something that no tasks, no work, no input. And the camera is the sole data source of input.
Yeah, and on top of that, it was also, the dealers are over technologized, as you talked about, but it's also the amount of different things that everybody has to do inside the store. And we were like, okay, how do we eliminate an installation? So there's no input there. How do we eliminate even having to have an account manager that comes back and retrains, constantly like so many other products are? And so we've eliminated all of that, where it becomes a true plug and play, and it's an app as easy as you would find an Apple, et cetera, except it's real time and make money.
So it would seem to me if I'm a dealer and I've got, let's say, 5 dealerships, or maybe I have 10 dealerships, this is kind of a no-brainer for me, just so I can sleep well at night, knowing exactly what's happening in my service drives, right? In real time. I mean, if somebody's not being taken care of, we're going to know about it. And when I say we, it could be the manager of those stores or what have you, but we know about it. It's not, we don't have to wait for remember the survey cards? But we don't have to wait for a survey card or an email.
We don't have to date us, but we've been in the business a long time. But speaking of that, it's exactly that. The progressive dealers are looking at this and saying, wait a second.
Right.
I did this manually. I had a general manager who now runs 60 stores in Florida, and he'd be at home watching the cameras, and he'd call the store and be like, there's a customer out on the front lot, right? And good for him. But now that takes that and it automates that. And so the progressive dealers are seeing the real upside to this with very low downside, and obviously the actionable items that also generate revenue and compliance is
a dealer today. They don't have the luxury of not investigating the technology that's available to make their store, a great store, right? They just don't have that luxury to say, nah, I'm doing fine. I mean, a lot of dealers are out there, they're making a ton of money. God love you, dealers. But we know that might change here in 2023, 2024 as more cars come in, and we're already starting to see prices coming down or what have you. So we all need every single nickel we can get our hands on. It's going to go back to those short margin. It's a small margin.
And dealers are also continuing to diversify. And when I say diversify, a great example that we've stumbled through in this process is, the progressive dealers, when they're seeing this, they're saying, okay, I love the product, I also love to invest. How do I get involved with this and be a piece of it, right? Because they see that there's upside here. And we've seen it throughout the industry over the last couple of years and some other tech areas where dealers have become involved with investment and
completely collaborate. Yeah, we want a collaborative approach with this from the beginning. And dealerships absolutely can invest and be part of the maturation of this, because we know that it's really developing a visual AI strategy.
Right.
First version of the CRM had a work plans and a letter generator. There was no desking, no text.
I remember.
We're already seeing with this that it is going to evolve from just the alerts they want today. What can you do right this second for me, to the pattern recognition and modernizing the process. Tremendous pressure to modernize the process and the customer experience. And then the whole API side of data elimination. So that we can take this, we want to be very transparent about this whole process. And if there's data, did the demo occur? Did the TO, did the tire options get presented? All that data can be sent out and automatically. So we want to take it off the shoulders of the people that really need to be interacting with customers. Not typing in data.
That's right. And I know, from my automotive experience and my background, if those things are being done on 100% of the customers that are coming in, heck, if they were being done on 90% of the customers coming in, the bottom line is going to increase. There's no question about it. You know what I mean? It was interesting when we found out, in F&I, that when you give every single customer the menu, and you show them all their options, every customer, up goes sales, right? You don't pick and choose and go, well, not that person. They bought a car last year. They don't need any of this stuff, right? And that person will come back in and go, how come you didn't show me this stuff? I need that, right? And the same thing applies. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, on behalf of the dealers listening, what's next? Is there a sales component to this? Is there?
Absolutely. The first version was the service to get those main things done. This year in 23, we also released the sales versions of that with the test drive,
the walk-arounds.
The walk-arounds, the managed TO, et cetera, appraisal process. And then there are also some security pieces that are big. We've had a surprised us, huge outcry for the customer fall or employee fall. One dealership told us that a customer on the blind side of the lot had a heart attack, fell out of their vehicle, and was 45 minutes waiting, that if they'd had the alert, literally would have saved a life.
Oh my gosh.
So,
right.
And then there are fraudulent activities around that as well that they want to know the truth on. Firearm detected, another big one that's coming out this year that's wanted.
That's great.
That's been wanted. In fact, surprisingly, we've had reach outs. Automotive is where we've spent our career.
Of course.
This is the problem we're solving. But we've already had reach outs from Independent Service Center, school system on firearm detected, airline.
For sure.
It's incredible how restaurant owner, one of our investors, a former CEO of Anheuser-Busch, and thinks that in the beer distributorships, this will be a game changer eventually. So it definitely scales out. So we'll come out with 20 or so triggers this year, and then 3 or 4 pattern recognition points. And then 24 will be more of the data elimination in the API side.
And then, of course, you touched on the notion that a camera could pick up a plate, and all of a sudden the person is given an opportunity for the dealership to buy that car when they pick up their paperwork.
Absolutely.
What's this?
Sure. Even just a subtle, we'd like to write a check for your car for this. And I think one of the biggest things that Mark and I have learned in over 2 decades with each other is, first of all, we don't know it all. In fact, we hardly know anything. 20 of those triggers, 18 of those are going to come from our investment partners and our dealers that are coming on. And we've learned to be very open with that and be like, hey, we're not going to be so tunnel visioned into even just auto, but what are the other ideas that we can take and A, do good, and B, compliancy, and see where can we generate that additional revenue without throwing another cog into the system to slow people down.
Yeah, no question about it. Dealers that are listening to us have this conversation, this is exactly the type of programs that we want to be bringing you here at CBT News. Obviously, we are on just a few weeks away from NADA in Dallas. These guys are going to be there with a booth. I encourage you to take 15 minutes, go by the booth, check out this product. You owe it to yourself, you owe it to your dealership, because this is the type of technology that is going to run the dealerships of tomorrow. And I know that if I were back in the auto retail side, I'd probably be your first customer. So Mark Queen, founder of Skaivision, and Bill Wittenmyer, strategy and advisor to the company. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
on the
you.
show.
We've been looking forward to this for 2 years, working on it and calls, and to get on here and have you kind of release it out into the wild, so to speak.
It's fantastic. It's very
we're looking
impressive.
forward to it.
Congratulations. Hopefully we can have you back to do a follow-up to see how things are working. But for dealers that are interested, the ramp-up time is pretty quick, huh?
Very quick.
Good.
There is no data conversion, no training,
Wow.
plug and play.
That's fantastic. That's great. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Jim.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick. Join the #1 most watched newscast in the automotive industry. CBT News, 10 years strong. Subscribe today.